Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. This video is gonna be something that I did not expect to make. Nonetheless, I'm very happy to make it. This is about the REX Atmos CORE add-on, which just released, and I just couldn't wait to get my hands on it because I already owned REX Atmos for 2020, and that was solved a lot of problems. 2024, I was a bit skeptical seeing some of the images. They really did not showcase the level of immersion that one could achieve in their screenshots. So I'm gonna give my first impression of this. I was pleasantly surprised. I went in with like low expectations of what this program can actually do. But I must be honest, my first impression, if you want it in one sentence, this product has its flaws, but if you know how to use it, it's great. So that being said, let me just see if I can pull up the REX Atmos CORE window. In fact, let me pull the entire screen up so that y'all can see what I'm looking at right now. So REX Atmos CORE at its core is well, that's a nice pun. At its core is something that plays with the memory values of the simulator. Those of you who's used Cheat Engine know about this already. You can play with memory values to change certain parameters in any game, and they appear to do something similar here. So let me just show you what I've done here. But before that, these are the three things, before we jump into any of the details which that page had. Let's just look at these 3 pages. So the first one is weather, next is Atmos, and third is Enviro. So weather, key weather parameters can be adjusted here. If I hit create, right now I'm using Active Sky and I'm using live weather from Active Sky. So I'm gonna use this, but these two are things that I'll not probably be interested in because I always work with live weather. Now, if I hit modify now, well, there's already some change that has happened, and that's got to do with, I guess, the cloud, the way the cloud lights up. Now, one of the cons, let me start with the cons. There doesn't seem to be any description of what these things do when I hover over them. So the UI is not user friendly at all. There's no way to make this a text box so that I can type in some values. You only have to use a slider. Sliders are not bad, but the ability to have a text box and a slider would be great. Now, I don't know what mode does. I don't know what this means. If it has any effect, doesn't seem to. And weather impact scale doesn't really do anything either, as far as I can tell. And I'm gonna leave these two here. Now, what I did see has an effect is this slider, which is a rather minor effect on the clouds, as you can see. It increases the volumetric density of the clouds locally, changes the lighting a bit on the edges, makes it a little bit darker, and this has an impact as well. Now, cloud luminance, so the higher this goes, the brighter the cloud looks. The lower this goes, beyond a point it has no effect, but maybe it's clamped or something, but the lower it goes, the darker the cloud gets. So I keep this at 0.05 for now. Visual cloud enhancement, I have not really settled on a value yet, but it's something that you can play with, right? Like, find something that you're happy with and then you can tweak it around. So these are like the cloud luminance of 0.05 is a good starting value. Now, these two are not really useful because this just makes the cloud evaporate, have that diffusion, evaporation kind of effect of a water vapor moving faster. So that's really not something we are interested in. So let me just probably, I mean, I wish I didn't do that. Kind of must have messed up the clouds a little bit, I guess. I don't know. Now, let me go to Atmos, which is like the most interesting part of this. Let me just let me, you know what, I'm just going to save that later. So let me go to the Atmos part. Now, I've created a preset here. It's called Hazy Summer in Tropical Asia, because one of the main pet peeves that I've had with Flight Sim, and you can look at some of my previous videos on the weather, is that the live weather from Asobo gave us haze circles and Active Sky gave us nothing, which is fine because they don't really have write access to the sim, so they cannot write things into the sim. They cannot control too many things. But Asobo did nothing with the amazing, incredible engine that they have. to do anything about visibility. You always had unlimited visibility, almost all the way up to the horizon or at ground level. So when you're flying in places in the tropics and in polluted places like India, that's not really something you'd often see. So I did not like that at all, and I wanted to do something about it. I did manage to do a few tweaks of my own, but let's not get into that. But when it comes to Atmos settings, I would say this is probably the most important page of REX Atmos, obviously, and starting with the cons again. What's the biggest con? There's no description and of what each of these things do. Like, those who don't know anything about atmospherics will be totally lost. And those who do, even if you know what these things are, the values aren't to scale. It's not like the scattering height is something that's linearly, it's not going to increase linearly with your altitude, or it's not how much the particles scatter or whatever. So I think this has more to do with the sunlight and how it scatters through, in my understanding. So that's my poor understanding of it. As you can see, just decreasing it changes how the clouds look and all of that. So that's what this thing does. So keeping it at a value, like, it's something that you can experiment with, right? But if you go crazy with it, the color totally shifts. So it's something that you need to play with and find something that you're happy with. But once you do that, these two, I would recommend to keep atmospheric depth around 500 and scattering height less than minus 0.1. That gives you reasonable values to play with. And relay scattering, this is more like scattering of small particles. That's what gives the color of the sky, for instance. Reducing it to 0 would make it look really weird, for example. But keeping it at values that are really low with a higher tint for blue is something that'll look good. But if you make it too blue, it's going to look weird, right? So it has to be, it's a very fine scale. So this is where having a text box over here might help, where you can fine tune these values to your liking, So because you see this, I'm just moving it very slightly and it has a huge effect. Of course, you can also lock the values and then move them together, but then that is not really nice because the sky is not looking blue anymore, if you see what I'm saying. So, and you don't want to do too much scattering because it really blocks horizontal visibility rather too fast. So I would say keep the scattering on the lower end for relay scattering, and probably keep the blue on the little bit higher end, so you get this lower altitude haze that you can play with the particles. Now, global scene illumination, that's another powerful parameter to know, to see how exposed your scene looks. I would say have a balance over here as well, where you don't lose the cloud shadows and the lovely contrast that you can see over here in this part of the screen in the middle there between the cloud layers. So it's very important to have a good balance there as well. As for the phase function, now I don't know what exactly that means, but what it does is it plays with how the scattering looks like, the color of the scattering, especially on the ground. So as you can see, the lower it goes, the color keeps changing on the ground. So often in hazy weather, you would see, like, if there's more moisture in the air, you'll see that darker color. So that's why, when there's a rain shaft, more amount of water particles in the air, that part of the sky, when there's like rain going, that place will be a little darker than the rest, right? So especially in humid weather, you'll have a little bit darker. In dusty weather, it's going to be brownish, So that's where this relay scattering and phase function really come in. When you're having a really clean atmosphere but humidity, you can go with higher blues. When it's a little bit less humid but more dusty, like smoggy conditions, you can bump up the red and the green just slightly, not too much, ever so slightly. That's where I guess, like, you need to be very fine with your controls here, and then you get a more smoggy look, and you can kind of increase and play with the phase function as well to adjust this to your liking. Now the next thing is the most important one. The best thing about REX Atmos is particle absorption and particle scattering and particle distribution. Now, these three things were the most important things that were missing from Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024 and 2020 out of the box, and it really blows my mind that Asobo did not integrate what was already present in their weather engine for their live weather system. It is, I would go so far as to say it just doesn't do justice to the simulator when you have such functionality and you do not implement it. Let me tell you what I mean. Let me lock the scattering and absorption for now, and let me reduce this to the lowest possible values, both of these. As you can see further and further out into the horizon now, so this is close to what the simulator looks like by default, you know. So this almost is similar to what you might see without REX Atmos, right? Without this atmospheric scattering, or maybe something closer to this, you know. The most minimal amount of scattering. Sure, looks nice when you're flying in, you know, the US in the southwest, or something like that in very dry weather. So it's good for that, but then not in the tropics, right? So now what if META reports like 5 kilometer visibility? You wouldn't want the same thing. So right now we are situated in India, southern India, Chennai, so we're expecting lower visibility here. The META report from Active Sky over here that I saw showed me 6 kilometers visibility. So from Google Maps, I know that this distance is about 8 kilometers and 6 kilometers from the runway, which is approximately, as you can see, the poppy lights coming into view again in the center of your screen. It's there, that's runway 25, so we're about 6 kilometers away. So if you want to achieve approximate 6 kilometer visibility, it can be a little bit up and down a little bit, but you'd have to increase this quite a bit. Not totally, of course, but quite a bit. And this is close to where you'd want it, you know. So there you go. So this is more reasonable, right? So this is what 6 kilometers visibility looks like. So no more, you know, 100 kilometer visibility with a H circle. So congratulations to REX Atmos for figuring this out. Now MSFS's engine does still have limitations, so you can still see a little bit of the horizon clipping afar over there, but that's fine, you know. Like it's way better than what we had before by default from Asobo. Now let me play with this a little bit more, and absorption just makes this look ridiculous sometimes, so you'd have to be really careful how you play with these parameters, but let me just make it a little bit ridiculous. So as you can see, like, this looks absolutely crazy, you know, like this is not realistic at all. Now if you in parallel increase scattering, you'll have like low visibility simulation all of a sudden. So this can be done to get up to 2-3 kilometers visibility, as you can see, and that's really great. So that's what particle absorption and scattering do. It directly helps you control surface visibility. Particle distribution, this is something else which is absolutely amazing in my opinion. Particle distribution basically tells you how densely distributed or how high these particles affect the scattering, basically. It changes probably, like, the higher this goes, I guess, it makes the sky less blue. So let me just reduce this a little bit, and that'll give you a clearer idea. And let me just turn the sky a little bit blue, and as you can see, so that's the difference between minimum, and let me keep increasing particle distribution. As you can see, as it goes higher and higher and higher, it starts having an influence on the atmosphere. So this is great. This is an amazing parameter that we can play with. I would say keep this on the lower end and then play with the absorption if you want a more cleaner looking atmosphere with just some haze. If you're going for that really smoggy look, you know, that you might have in really polluted cities like New Delhi, probably in the winter when all that smog just settles down and there's no wind to carry it, sure, you can bump all of these things up, and that's gonna look pretty ugly, and that's pretty representative of what the city looks like at that time. So that's for the Atmos. Probably the biggest selling point for REX Atmos is this page. As for Enviro, I mean, I still need to check it out, figure it out, but I mean, this seems to be like a very this seems to remind me of one of the Atmos parameters that we saw as well, right? Like so, it um, it just changes the color of the haze, color of the ground, but they're integer values. So that's very interesting as well. Now, keeping this like this, I don't see any effect on scene color, so I'm just going to leave it as is. And then light tuning as well. That's something which you can do as per your preference, because this one, all of these things seem to be very uh, correlated with the Atmos, so I don't know what effect they have independently, so I'm not going to fiddle with what I don't understand. So I'm just going to use the Atmos page mainly for myself. Then once I get a better idea, I'm going to play with these. Um, Finally, this is just a first look. So what are my thoughts? I would say I'm very, very impressed. I'm very, very impressed because I did not expect Atmos to be this good, to be able to do so many of these functions that I've wanted for literally years now, and the fact that Atmos has it really, really makes me happy. Now, another thing I'd want to check out and show you perhaps is how this looks like in different weather conditions and different times of day. So let's start with the easier one first, which is the times of day. Um, so it's 11:39 a.m. So this is in the morning. This is what it looks like, and looks kind of weird in my opinion, but that's something which you can tune. And you don't want to do too much tuning, right? Like you don't want to do too much tuning, but you don't want to have your sim look ugly either. So it's a balancing act. And in my opinion, like if you can get a good setting for visibility, I'd say you can live with it and just adjust the Atmos settings accordingly for different times of day. Just make sure that you're making minor adjustments so that you don't spend half your time tuning Atmos settings instead of flying. So in the daytime, that it could use a little less absorption maybe, I don't know, but to me, I've seen days like this, that are very gloomy, and that partly has something to do with clouds too. So let me show you this by perhaps removing the clouds. Let me go to weather control, custom weather, and perhaps I can try to remove the clouds from this region. So let me put no significant clouds, and next. So we kind of have clear skies here, and let's see what that looks like. There you go. This looks beautiful, guys. This is very, very accurate. So it was the clouds. Indeed, you don't have to tweak Atmos over and over again, because it was the effect of the clouds that caused the sim to, look a little bit off, but I guess that's just because of the clouds. Now, I would say that I could up the brightness a little bit, change the distribution a little bit, but that's something that we can tweak. Now, these things, right? So I guess like the overall impression that I have, sorry that I'm rambling this much, but the impression that I have is that this is a much needed thing for MSFS, and I'm glad that REX has done it with their Atmos Core product, and those who've had Atmos get it for like $7, which is it's not a big deal, it's like coffee at Starbucks, so it's fine. But we could definitely use some guidance and things like that with official documentation if they could. But I hope this video helps you guys. If you get Atmos, I hope it does help you guys to figure these settings out and make your own presets. Let me know what you guys think about Atmos Core, how you like the simulator with this, and what you thought about the sim without Atmos, and where you think MSFS 2024 was in the beginning, whether you're happy with it, and whether this really adds something for your flying experience. Thank you so much for checking my video out, and thank you so much for visiting my channel. Like and subscribe, so if I get more likes and subscribes for this one, I'd probably end up making more videos like this. Thank you so much, guys. Have a good one. Peace.